Now, let's go through that day. We go to the last day. Now, many things happened between then and the last day. The last day, though, I'm with a Navy lieutenant and one sailor. And the sailor, I saw him doing what I had seen so many times, and I often say, it's much easier to die than it is to live. And I saw that he was willing to just let his head drop in the water. His kapok jacket would not hold him up completely out of the water. And I shook him, and he was still alive, but he could care less. I checked him the second time, same thing. The third time is too late. He'd already dropped his head in the water, and now he's gone. So just McKissick and myself. And after a period of time, we are struggling now. We have our kapok jackets down under us, but we're having to keep swimming to keep ourselves erect, or else that kapok will pitch us in the water. And then all of a sudden I said, I hear a plane, look, I see a plane. And here was a plane going to fly over us, and he was 2,000 or 3,000 feet up, but we waved, we splashed water, we hollered, we did everything imaginable. But if he knew we were down there, impossible for him to see us. Let me just explain that. Here he's flying, let's say 4,000 feet. He's looking forward of him, say, 4 mile. He's looking out his peripheral vision each side, 2.5 mile. He's looking at 20 square mile. And to see a man's head down there, impossible for him to see us. But in the providence of God, he saw us. Let me tell you how he saw us. Lieutenant Gwynn flying that Ventura, I call it the B-25, with wheels on it. And here he was having trouble with his radio antenna. And he says to the co-pilot, take over controls. We're having trouble with that radio antenna, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to pull that in and put a little stabilizer on it, or else we can't reach back to base. And as he leaves the cockpit and goes aft, he opens the bomb bay door and just glances down a split second. He rushes back to take over control of the plane, and the crew says, what is it? What'd you see? He says, look down there. And they looked down there. They couldn't see anything, but what Lieutenant Gwynn saw was, I often say, it was the little Boy Scout's mirror. He saw the sun hitting the oil off of our clothing and the debris down there. And to him, that meant that there's a Jap sub in distress down there. He loaded the bombs. We think he sees us. Look, he's coming in. He's coming in. And he was coming in. But he was coming in loaded, ready to drop his bombs on whatever might have been down there. But when he got down in that, up a couple of thousand yards, then he began to see sharks in the water. Long, big sharks. And as he got closer down, he could see sharks attacking boys. And so I see him, though, as he comes down and he circles us a few times. I can see his visage in that cockpit now as he circled us 3 or 4 times, and then he goes back up. Well, I wonder, what's he going back up there for? He goes back up so that he could reach back at base in Palau to announce ducks on the pond. Now, no one knew whose ducks were out there, but he gets in touch with a PBY pilot, Adrian Marks, and Marks, hour and a half later, 150 miles later, he comes on the scene. He could land. He asked permission to land, and he was told, no way do you land that big goose in the open sea landing with 8-foot swells. But he argued the point that there's boys down there being mauled by sharks, and he hung up on his command in Palau, and he set that big goose down. He circled us a few times. He hit that first swell. He bounced up in the air. Later we find out that he knocked the motor completely out. He ruptured the pontoon. But he set it down, and he began to run those swells and to pick up survivors. It isn't long I knew he picked up McKissick, and then later he picks me up. Well, he picked up 56. You might say, it won't hold 56. Well, it will if you tie 7 out on the wings, and there were 7. I've got a buddy down in Chattanooga that was one of the 7 on the wings. Okay, from there, then, there's a destroyer that comes in later that night. We're transferred aboard the destroyer, and then we're taken to Palau to the hospital, later to the hospital in in Guam.